So 185 is what New Zealand have got in what's a must-win game for them. Funny little innings. There was lots of event. It started well, then fizzed off a little, then took off again. If you look at the last 5, 3 overs went for 45. Kane Williamson, welcome back to form. We've been expecting you, Kane. And then the last 2, Ireland have pulled it back. Just 12 in overs 19 and 20, including a penultimate over that conceded just 3 runs. And we couldn't be happier for Josh Little, who's picked up a hat-trick, who's written his own name in the history of the T20 World Cup books, and becomes only the 5th player to register a hat-trick in the tournament's history. The second this year. We saw Karthik Mayappan do it in the first round, the UAE leg spinner against Sri Lanka, and Little is now the second Irishman after Curtis Camphor did it in the tournament this time last year. So, plenty to discuss on our halftime show on Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout. We'll hear from Niall O'Brien in just a moment. Before that, Tom Moody and Robin Uthappa in studio with me. Shall we start with a hat-trick? Because it's such a nice moment, and deservedly, Tom, for a bowler who's bowled so well all tournament.
Yeah, and it's a unique moment, isn't it? Yeah. You know, you don't see them that often. I think I took a hat-trick when I was 11 years old, and that was the only hat-trick I ever got close to. But in a World Cup, big event like that, you know, it's a very special moment. And the manner he got the hat-trick too, because you do see sometimes you see hat-tricks, you know, at the back end of the innings where the ball goes, you know,
3 outfield catches,
3
slogging.
outfield. But these were proper dismissals. He knocked, you know, he knocked over the second and the third wicket with just good pace, good line, and good, you know, good lengths. So I'm thrilled for him because he's bowled well and he is a genuine threat.
Yeah. And even the Williamson wicket, although Kane was sort of ready to go big, looked like a ball that was slower and deceived him, didn't he?
Yeah, he bowled really well, isn't he? And he looks like such a more competent bowler when he pitches the ball slightly fuller, because he really rushes the batsman for time. And those second 2 wickets in that hat-trick, you could see that the batsmen were well behind the 8 ball, were beaten for pace. And a very subdued kind of celebration for a hat-trick, actually. Very unlike a celebration.
Very un-Irish, Niall O'Brien, shall we say. But there will be a celebration or two, and I'm sure you must be thrilled for Joshua Little.
Yeah, well, I think I was celebrating harder than Josh. I was jumping around my living room here. It was it was wonderful. Now, he's been... you know, the leader of the pack almost for a young man in his early 20s to be single-handedly leading this bowling unit. It's amazing. It's an amazing story. He's full of a very strong sporting family. He played international hockey as a youngster. So at the age of 15, 16, had to decide whether he played hockey or played cricket. His sister plays cricket for Ireland. They're a lovely, lovely family, a lovely institution. From the same neighbourhood as me, so we grew up in the same village, Sandymount. Big shout out to Sandymount, the sporting capital of Dublin. But he's a good kid, and he's got a good head and shoulders. You can see that he's a thinker. You know, he's not just someone who's kind of trying to bowl fast. He's thinking. He's out thinking batters. And as Robbie said, when he pitches the ball up, and when he doesn't just bowl short and back of a length and slam it into the pitch, he's doubly effective. So he's got the ability to swing the ball. He can skid the ball if the surface allows in the subcontinent, and he's got that short, pacey bouncer. So it's a lovely way for him to potentially finish his tournament because he's deserved all the success. A lot of hard work gone in. Rob Castle, who Tom Moody, I'm sure will know very well, the former South Australia and Redbacks and Adelaide Strikers coach, did a lot of work with Josh Little 2 years ago when he was bowling coach for the Irish team, and put a lot of plans in place for Josh that we're now seeing the fruits of Rob Castle's labour. So sometimes the coaches don't get the credit they deserve, and so I'm sure he's watching from his home in Adelaide, is very happy right now.
What is that place called again, Niall? You were saying it's where are you all from?
The sporting capital of Ireland.
Yeah, the sporting capital of Ireland.
A little village called Dublin. A little village called Sandymount. It's about 1 kilometre from Lansdowne Road, Viva Stadium. Yeah, Sandymount. Yeah, lots of sporting. Ed, the best Irish batter of all time, he resides there, and it's home for the O'Briens, the Balberries, etc. So, full of sporting genes.
You obviously come from there as well. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yep. My brother Kevin, the other fellow who got the 100 in the World Cup.
You're being really harsh on Niall O'Brien. He
at
was
all.
part of an
Clearly
iconic
Sandy
Irish
Mountain had
team
a hand
back in
in
the
that.
Caribbean.
Sandy Mountain had a hand in
Rob-
that hat trick.
Maybe
for
that's
sure.
why, yeah.
Robbie, you're welcome. Robbie's welcome in Sandyman anytime. Tom Moody, not so much.
Yeah, apparently there's some very good Gaelic footballers there as well, I believe.
Okay, behave now. Right.
As in coming back to the cricket,
Yes.
as in I think look at Josh Little. He actually reminds you a little bit of Sam Curran, the bowler as well. Seems like he's got certain smarts about himself when he's bowling. Clearly likes to hit the deck hard, which we all know about, and I experienced that when he came to CSK as one of our preparation bowlers, and he was really good, and he had to leave us early because he had some national duty, but you can see that same kind of attitude, the same kind of confidence that he has in his own ability, and which is really nice to see in a young fast bowler.
Yeah. Well, turned 23 just a few days ago, did Josh Little. So this is a happy birthday present for him, and he will remember this for a long time to come. You think he's got a bright future ahead of him if he keeps bowling this way. Let's pick up the staff from the batting side, and welcome back, Kane Williamson. We've been expecting you. We saw the best of Williamson. We had a long chat about Williamson on our pre-show with Tom and Robin. So let's run through that innings. And Tom, this is the innings you were waiting for all season with the Sunrisers, weren't you? But in all fairness, this was the best of Williamson.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I think we talked the other day about Kane Williamson when he got the 40 off the 40 balls. And we talked about just that moment where you go from first, second gear into fourth, fifth gear, from a runner ball to suddenly, I'm 30 balls, I'm now 45 or 50. He did that today. He got himself in typically, and we're all thinking, he's only just over a runner ball here. When's that moment? He then hit a couple of boundaries, a 6 and a 4, and suddenly he's in that sort of positive territory where he can play freely, and then he just blossomed. And he was quite, it was a good catch to dismiss him, but he could have easily ended up with an 80 and not out with a strike rate of close to 200. He ended up with a strike rate of 100 and just short of 175. So still an outstanding innings, but that is the Williamson blueprint. It's the Kohli blueprint. And it's successful, but we just haven't seen it from Kane for a long time. We've talked at great length to why, and it's primarily down to really the injury that set him back for well over 12 months.
And what was really heartening to see was his intent between the wickets. He ran a lot of twos, and I think that's the assessment he probably, and his learning from the previous games, that on these grounds there are a lot of twos available, and they'll add so much value to his innings. I think what we didn't see in the previous games was that and he always been a good runner between the wickets, but the size of the ground also kind of was very conducive to his game. The shortness of the square boundaries, and I think that he'll add that into his repertoire, knowing when he goes back to playing these bigger grounds in Australia, I think we'll see him run a lot harder between the wickets, which will add a lot of value to his game as well. But it was so heartening to actually speak so much about him, and then I think what you should always do from here on in is when we speak really well about a player, we top it off and say we hope he plays well today because we've spoken so much good about him. But I think that kind of negates the commentator's curse.
Knocking the wood that did everything. But in fairness, it was also an important innings, Tom, because they managed to keep Conway quiet. They got Finn Allen reasonably early, and they got Phillips reasonably early. So we weren't sure who's going to play the big innings at the end. This could be very decisive innings too. If New Zealand would have fallen short 150, 160, you never know what could happen.
Yeah, very important. Well, we always talk about in T20 cricket, if you get a start, we need someone to bat deep, and he did do that. There was a couple of others that did get starts. It was interesting watching Conway bat. It was very unlike him. He just couldn't get himself going, couldn't find any sort of timing. He was, playing across the line, really fighting against the tide.
He was trying too hard.
Yes,
he was trying too hard.
He was. Yeah. And but yeah, Kane did play an important role because we feel they've got a very competitive total. If he didn't sort of convert that start, they probably would have only ended up with sort of that 160 mark.
Let's go to Niall O'Brien. Today we saw the best of Ireland in the field. Niall, but how do you sort of look back at their 20 overs of bowling overall? The Josh Little was superb. They got some big wickets at the right time. But would you say that was as good a bowling performance as you'd have liked to see?
No, I think they're a little bit off. I think when you've got someone like Kane Williamson, especially, who's been a bit out of touch and has got this injury, you want him hitting down the ground. You want him trying to hit to the longer boundaries. I think they gave Kane Williamson too much opportunity to go square the wicket. So I think Mark Adair, for some reason, has been off ever since the early stages of the initial rounds in Hobart. Just hasn't bowled well. Fionn Hand, probably maybe a game too much for him. I thought Gareth Delaney did well, bowled some good leg spin, used the angles quite nicely. It was a decent bowling performance, decent. They fielded pretty well. I think Harry Tector missed one catch that was hit like a bullet, but all in all, I think the bowlers have done a good job all tournament for Ireland. You can't fault the efforts and the plans and their preparation on pretty good surfaces. One area that they've got to work on is their fielding. Their fielding and catching, especially in the tournament, has been woeful, to be brutally honest with you. I don't know what's going on. They've got a fielding coach. They need a fielding coach to work on their catching, especially because that's an area that Robbie and Tom will know too well. Catches win matches, and if you're putting down key batters, you're going to lose key battles and lose matches.
So I have a theory about these catches, huh? So and I've seen that, and I've tested it out with our first class team, and it's worked for us. So these Skyer bats that come, the one that's easy to hit, very high catches. I think that's overused at practice because there's a sound and spatial kind of awareness that the sound of a cricket bat makes that you don't get with that rubber bat, and you understand just subconsciously, I think as a fielder, you understand how well a ball's hit, if it's spliced, or if it's come out the middle of the bat, and you don't catch any of that information actually from that Skyer bat. And I think it's got its place in preparation, the Skyer bat, maybe for really high catches.
But you think it's overused?
I think it's overused, and I think the players aren't used to that sound anymore, so they don't know how well balls hit and if it's sticking the edge, or if it's a top edge, or if it's hit the splice. There's very little information that's received by a fielder, and I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of drop catches are being seen around the world at the moment.
Care to win, Tom?
I 100% agree. I never used one.
Yeah.
For that, no, seriously. For that reason,
Yeah.
For one, I don't like the feel of it myself as the ball hitter, because I also want to be able to measure, because you've got to feel as a former player, a feel for how you're hitting it, but. I agree. I think there's too many variables, and I'd say the same thing about the flinger. Yeah. I think the flinger that's used for throwdowns that batsmen use is overused, massively overused. I know it's saved a lot of elbows and shoulders for coaches and throwers over the time, but the feel that you get from a batting perspective is just totally different to what the real situation is. Yeah. Spend more time facing bowlers, because that's what you're paid to do.
Yeah, I think in a post-COVID world, we'd hope that teams are willing to carry net bowlers or invite net bowlers from wherever they're touring. It seemed like something they had to resort to, but the throwdowns just seem to be the way to go now. They're called, for the benefit of our viewers again, they're called flingers, are they?
Sidearm or
flingers.
Flingers. And if you could just also elaborate on the splicer bat, is that what you call it?
No, so the Skyer bat.
Skyer bat,
sorry. Skyer bat.
So
basically, it's a plastic bat with a massive piece of silicone on top of it. So when that...
Right.
Yeah, it's foam, thick bit of foam that just
so a lot of that
propels the ball into the air.
Yeah, so a lot of that is used in sort of amateur cricket now. Bats entirely made of foam, because it just sort of travels.
Yeah. Well, it's half wood, half foam. It's not just amateur. Most IPL teams, most international teams will have them. You'll just see some coaches.
Oh, just for training, you're saying?
Yeah, just for training. Oh,
I'm saying amateur
cricket. Happy days if you can go out and bat with one of them.
It's actually used in a lot of amateur cricket tournaments now. People bat with those bats. There's a whole manufacturing set of them. And you'll hear this odd sound, which sounds like a hollow sound almost, but the ball just travels. Yeah. So that's what's being used, you're saying, for fielding. Yeah. Do most teams use this, or is it?
Yeah, I think every
most
team.
International teams.
Every team, every single, not most, every.
What I saw, we're going on a bit here, but I suppose that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
What I found really interesting, watching the Australians prepare pre the start of this phase of the World Cup, was that they would have a batsman. It was Maxwell was doing it. He was hitting the long catches, but he had his gloves on, he had his bat on, and someone was throwing to him, and he was practicing hitting straight down. Yeah, but it was nearly giving the fielders catches, but he was also just doing some range. Yeah, so doing some range hitting as well. He was hitting the straight ones, and Steve Smith was hitting the deep mid-wicket ones at the Gabba.
Yeah.
So again, they're both getting a feel for the distance they're hitting the ball and the feel, which I thought was
was great
ticking
practice.
2 boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Brilliant.
And I think and it's not like the skyer doesn't have a place in cricket. It does. But I think even if you do take catches with that, you have to finish off your fielding. I think this is for any young cricketer who's doing this. You want to start. You probably want to do a little bit of the skyer because you want to get that much height on the ball as well, which a lot of coaches are not able to achieve with just a regular cricket bat, unless you're double handing it with gloves and all of that. But if you can't do that, then you start off maybe you want to finish off with normal cricket bat and receive catches with that, so that you have that spatial awareness.
Yeah, all right. We're a bit over time, but I'd love for Niall to just weigh in. Maybe the easiest thing is just keep wicket, Niall.
Yeah.
I made that look very difficult. Don't you worry about that.
All right, quick final comments from Niall O'Brien. You see Ireland getting close here, Niall?
I see Ireland getting close, but not quite close enough.
All right, good batting surface though, so they could at least give New Zealand a bit of a scare. They bat well, Tom. Start well.
Look, I think a lot depends on Sterling. I think he's got the ability to play that innings out of the box.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it yet. He's been quiet, but maybe it's his day today.
Yeah, nothing to lose though. Ireland. Just go
Absolutely.
for it.
Yeah, so they can go for it, and I feel like they need 2 or 3 of the main batters and who are really dangerous batters to come good for them for them to make a match out of this one. So I definitely think Sterling, Balboni, and Tector. I think they need to fire for this to become a game.
Well, he survived a close LBW review as Paul Sterling, so maybe today is his day. If he does tee off, and if Ireland do get close, who knows, even if they get over the line, should make for a fascinating discussion. Regardless, New Zealand are well placed now to finish top of that points table. We will look back at this game and build up to Australia v Afghanistan, so do join us at the end of this game. Big thank you to Robin Uthappa, Tom Moody and Niall O'Brien for going overtime and giving us this fascinating discussion on perhaps how teams go about their fielding drills. So we pick up the conversation again on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket Info T20 Timeout at the end of the game. Join us then.